There are moments in life that split everything into before and after. For me, that moment happened on a Tuesday morning under fluorescent lights in a grey conference room with 20 colleagues watching in silence. But let me take you back to where this story really begins. My name is Sara, and for 3 years I gave everything I had to Meridian Solutions, a mid-sized marketing firm where I genuinely believed hard work was enough. I was the first one in every morning, the last one to leave most nights. I missed birthdays, skipped holidays, and answered emails at midnight, not because anyone forced me to, but because I cared. I believed in the work. I believed in the team. Most of all, I believed in my boss, Daniel. Daniel was the kind of man who walked into a room and immediately made you feel like you needed his approval to breathe. Tall, polished, always with a smile that never quite reached his eyes. He had a gift for making people feel chosen and then, slowly, making them feel small. In my first year, he praised me constantly. "Sara, you're different. You think bigger than the others." And I held on to those words like they were precious. I worked harder, I stretched further, I gave more. By my second year, the praise quietly disappeared, replaced by correction, then criticism, then something colder dismissal. I told myself it was just pressure, that he was stressed, that good leaders were sometimes hard on their best people. I was wrong. The truth showed itself in small moments I kept excusing away. The meeting I was suddenly left off the invite for. The campaign I built from scratch credited to someone else in the quarterly report. The raise I was told would come when the timing is right for 18 months straight. But what I didn't know that day, as I sat across from Daniel in yet another closed-door review, was that he had already made his decision about me. Long before I walked in, long before I said a single word. He looked at me across that table calm, almost bored, and said something I will never forget. "Sara, I'm going to be honest with you. You're not leadership material. You're a worker. A good one, sure, but some people are built to execute, not to lead. And I think deep down, you know that." I felt the blood drain from my face. He leaned back, crossed his arms, and added with that smile, "Don't complain. This is honestly all you can handle." I didn't cry. Not in that room. I nodded. I thanked him. I walked out. And then I sat in my car for 45 minutes completely still, while something inside me quietly shattered. That night, I went home and did something I rarely allowed myself to do. I fell apart, not dramatically, not loudly. I just sat on my kitchen floor with a cup of tea that went cold, and I let every suppressed doubt I'd been carrying for 2 years crash over me at once. What if he's right? That thought, that poisonous, quiet thought, is the most dangerous thing a person like Daniel can plant in you. Because it doesn't arrive screaming, it whispers. And it whispers in your own voice. I replayed every moment, every ignored suggestion, every stolen credit, every time I'd smiled through something that should have broken me. And I realised I hadn't just been overlooked, I had been managed. Carefully, deliberately kept exactly small enough to be useful, but never large enough to threaten. A week later, I discovered something that turned my grief into something sharper. A colleague, Maya, one of the few people I trusted, came to me quietly after a team lunch. She looked uncomfortable. She said she'd overheard something I needed to know. Daniel had recommended someone for the senior strategist position, a role I had applied for, prepared for, built campaigns specifically to qualify for. The person he recommended had been at the company for 8 months. No major campaigns. No client results. His name was Trevor. And Trevor was Daniel's former college roommate. Something in me went very still. I had spent 3 years building something real. And it had been handed away, not on merit, not on performance, but on a golf friendship and a shared dorm room from 15 years ago. I went home that evening and made a decision. I was done shrinking. I spent the next 4 weeks doing something no one at that office expected from me. I'd put together a full strategic portfolio, every campaign I had led, every metric I had moved, every client I had retained. I documented everything. Quietly, carefully, with the same precision I had always brought to my work, except this time I was doing it for myself. And then I reached out to someone I'd met at an industry conference 2 years earlier, a woman named Claire, who ran her own boutique agency and had once handed me her card and said, "Call me when you're ready to do bigger things." I had kept that card in my desk drawer. I finally picked up the phone. Claire didn't hesitate. She asked me to come in. We spoke for 2 hours. By the end of that conversation, she offered me a senior director role, 2 salary tiers above where Daniel had kept me frozen, and the creative freedom I had been quietly starving for. I gave my 2 weeks' notice on a Monday morning. I want to be honest with you, I didn't plan for what happened next. I didn't engineer it. Sometimes, life simply has its own sense of timing. On my final Friday at Meridian, the company held their annual client showcase, the biggest presentation event of the year. The campaign being featured? A regional rebranding project that had earned Meridian its largest client renewal in 5 years. That campaign was mine. I had built it from the initial brief to the final delivery, every visual direction, every messaging framework, every strategic pivot. But when Daniel stood at the front of that conference room and began walking the room through the work, my name appeared exactly once in the footnotes of slide 17. And then something unexpected happened. One of the senior clients, a sharp, no-nonsense woman named Patricia, stopped Daniel mid-presentation. She looked around the room and asked, "Where's the woman who presented this concept to us in the original pitch meeting?" Sara, wasn't it? I'd love to hear her speak to the strategy directly. The room turned. Daniel's smile stayed, but his eyes went somewhere uncomfortable. And I stood up. I spoke for 12 minutes, calmly, clearly, with the confidence of someone who no longer needed anyone's permission to take up space. I walked them through every decision, every data point, every result. The clients nodded. They asked follow-up questions to me, not to Daniel. When I sat back down, the room was quiet. Patricia looked at Daniel and said simply, "You have exceptional talent here. I hope you know that." He said nothing. That afternoon, I handed in my badge, picked up my things, and walked out of Meridian Solutions for the last time. No dramatic speech, no confrontation, no revenge plot, just me walking towards something better. Here is what I want to leave with you today. The most dangerous thing someone can do to you is make you agree with their low opinion of you. Daniel didn't just try to limit my career. He tried to make me believe I deserved those limits, and for a while I almost did. But here is what I learned. Your value doesn't live in someone else's assessment of you. It lives in what you build, what you know, and what you choose to do when someone tries to convince you that you are less than you are. I didn't win by destroying Daniel. I won by refusing to become who he said I was. And that is a victory no one can ever take from you. Thanks for watching. If this story moved you, share it with someone who needs to hear it today.